G'day mate and welcome back to Captain History with me, Jetty. Today's episode is going to be a special episode. Special episode is written there in the title. You know exactly what you're looking for, what you're going to get, because you clicked on the thumbnail. Today we're going to be doing a base tour. We're going to be doing a base tour, which means we're going to be wandering through the whole base, talking about all the little intricacies. Yes, as we approach year 1000. Year 1000 is 1,000 years of Captain History. So, I need you guys to do me a couple of favors. One, because we're doing a 1,000-year base tour, I need a like. I'm not going to even ask to borrow it for this one. This one's a special one. Can I just have the like? Have the like. At the same time, those of you who have been badgering for a little while now to click the subscribe button, thank you so much. Those of you who haven't clicked subscribe, we're doing a full base tour. Can I get it now? Can I get it now? I think I deserve it now. We're going to be going through the whole base, talking about all the little bits that we've built to get us here for year 1000. Also our grand dreams and goals. Yes. Last thing I need to mention is I need to thank the YouTube members. YouTube members and Patreon members, those that support the channel, because we're trying to do something a little bit different for 2022. That is 2022 in real life, not 2022 in the game. We are attempting to take this channel away from the traditional YouTube ad-fed algorithm into a much more community-funded aspect. So, I have been requesting that, you know where the like button is, you know where the subscribe button is, we've just gone over both of those. I'd like you to consider clicking the join button. Becoming a YouTube member costs as little as $1 per month, and for your $1 per month, you can go towards supporting the channel. You can also get early access to videos, and it means that I don't run mid-roll ads during these videos. So, consider it very much, very much helps out the channel and helps out me. So with that out of the way, we need to thank a brand new YouTube member on the 3rd of January, year 1000. We're going to be thanking Scott Hunt. Scott Hunt, who arrived in the year 1000 and shall be driving this dump truck for the next 1,000 years. At the same time, as we're at this end of the map, we might as well start at this end of the map. So, a couple of things. First off, right here at the back of the map, we have the main digging crew. Oh, some things you click on and the game just goes, nope. All right, this is our main digging crew. Our main digging crew, their only objective in life is to find rock. Find rock and as much rock as possible to fill in parts of the sea. And they are almost done, so we're going to give them just a little bit more to do. And yeah, their main objective is to find as much rock as possible to fill in old holes. Now, we're playing the game a little bit differently. Obviously, we have the goal of launching a rocket, obviously. But on top of that, I'm trying my absolute best to get to 100% sustainable. Which means I want to be in a situation where we're not digging items out of the ground. We're not digging up iron. We're not digging up sand or copper or coal or any of that. We're doing everything with trade contracts. At the same time, I do want to make sure that we don't have any items left in the ground. So we are digging up everything. But I don't want to use it. I'm happy to put it in storages or put it in ramps or do something with it. Maybe we'll dump it in the sea. But yeah, we're trying to do both at the same time. I want to excavate all the items and also fill in all my holes and also level out the iron. There's a couple of goals all going at the same time. Some of them are competing with one another. All right, right beside here, just because they happen to be here, is we have a little limestone patch, which we have, well, one single excavator and 3 trucks gnawing the way at. Because over here we have, well, there was a limestone mountain in the way. It has been compacted into a whole bunch of storage containers. Next thing we need to talk about is part of that sustainability. Part of that sustainability is one of my many ships. We have 11 cargo ships running around the map. This particular one is trading food packs for uranium. Its grand goal being, well, to make sure that we can trade food for uranium, which means I don't need to dig uranium out of the ground. Well, out of the world map, because the world map mines are finite, and I'd like to be able to potentially play forever. So, yes, its job is to trade food for uranium, which is one of the things we're doing to become more sustainable. Next up, as we wander around the map, is, well, this is just a desal plant. It's a desal plant. It creates a whole bunch of clean water by unfortunately burning a lot of coal. We're trying to get off coal because we're on a quite coal-limited map. But the most important thing I want to show you guys here is our pump and dump method. This is the patent-pending Jetty pump and dump method, where we have got our pumps and our dumps as close to one another as possible. It does require a man-made coastline, but if we put a dump as close to the coastline as possible, we can then take a pump and put it hard up against it, or actually, sorry, one tile away, and slide it back far enough that it just happens to clear the rear of the dump. Yes, which means we can make the coastlines very compact with our pumps and dumps, which is one of the things we've done right here. And yes, this is just a giant desal plant. It creates a whole bunch of clean water. We use the clean water for a number of things. One of the things we use it for is our modular food build. Our modular food build requires a significant amount of water, around about 400 water per minute, roughly. And the idea behind this is, well, it's to be modular and expandable. There's a chance maybe it's not expandable enough because we do have 8,200 people and they eat a lot of food. But hopefully it's expandable enough. And the simple concept with this was, well, we're going to bring in certain food types and we're going to process them in straight lines, so that way if I need to expand a build, I can. In this particular case, we have wheat here. So wheat obviously gets turned into flour. The flour gets turned to bread. On top of that, flour gets turned to cake because, well, flour is needed for cake right here. And there's a chance maybe we don't have enough cake, so I need to unpause another one of these machines. At the same time, excess wheat gets shunted out to the right and goes over the back for animal feed. This one is tofu, so tofu comes in here. Tofu. Soybeans come in here and gets turned into tofu. If we have excess soybeans from this balancer, it gets shunted around the outside. Soybeans have a couple of options of how we can dispose of it. So it can come over here and get turned into mineral oil. Mineral oil, cooking oil. So close. Always get that one wrong. I don't know why. It's just stuck in my head as mineral oil. Maybe I've been looking at making mineral oil PC too much. I don't know. But soybeans can get turned to canola oil. It's not terribly effective. Soybeans can also get turned directly to animal feed. So they have another option to go this way and go out the back to animal feed. Next up, we have corn. Corn has multiple options. We actually have this belt here that goes right over the back of the build to get turned to snacks because, yeah, they're very effective at getting turned into snacks. Also, we have our second option is to come in here and go and get turned into corn mash, which gets turned to ethanol. And our last option is get shunted at the back and get turned to animal feed to feed those damn chickens. Next up, we have sugarcane. Sugarcane gets processed into sugar, obviously, and then goes one of three different directions. To the left, we have cake. To the right, we have antibiotics. Antibiotics, yes. And the other belts being this one, shunts around here and comes to our ethanol production, which is a special production because it does both sugar and corn mash. It does both recipes at the same time. We prioritize the sugar because sugar doesn't have anywhere else to go, whereas corn does. Then, like I said, we're happy to be making antibiotics here because, well, we needed sugar, so therefore we made antibiotics here because it's part of medical. On top of that, we have our medical 1 being made right here with our medical 2 made right here. And eventually we're going to have medical 3 made right here because it needs poppy seeds, which are obviously going to come from our farms, which we'll talk about the farms in just 1 second. Next up over the back, we have, well, the great food processor that just turns every bit of food that we can, every bit of excess food from soybeans to wheat to potatoes to corn into animal feed, and then shunts it into our 12 row, our row of 12 chicken farms. On top of that, the products from the chicken farms, being the meat and the egg, pop out the front, and well, we make sure we have meat for the people, plus we have sausages for the people, now that we have that new meat recipe. We also right here have our snack production, which again, because it can have both corn and potato are actually shunted over here first before they go to, the great animal feed. And we are prioritizing corn over potato because corn is a better recipe to use. Corn is the better ingredient to use to make snacks. So again, grand food build. And as said, this is made very, very modular, so I can expand out certain modules should we have excess production. Next up, we have tagged on the side is those food packs I mentioned earlier, where we take our excess food and we convert it into food packs, which we ship overseas to bring back uranium. Lastly, we do have our grand line of food, where we have processed food going into the colony, and our raw food is actually pretty much on 2 belts at this stage. Fully packed out 2 belts to go into the grand food processor. All right, next up, let's talk about the colony. The colony is a special colony. As you can see, it's quite excessive and quite large, but it has a couple of prime features. One is we are making sure that we're using decorations. Okay, so we're using the sediment decorations to get a extra 1 unity. Where are we? Sediment quality, a extra 1 unity. I don't know why it's 0.98. It should be 1. Maybe it's just because I don't know. because these ones are paused. They shouldn't count. But yes, we are getting a bonus 1 uni from decorations. On top of that, we are doing the logical thing with our trash. We're dumping it in the sea. And we're choosing to do that underneath our colony. So we have the poor end of town, which is built on nothing but trash. The okay-ish side of town, which has patches of green here and there. And then we have the posh side of town, which is actually built on dirt with grass. And you do not want to be living on this side of town, but you might be. You might be. All depends on what sort of status you were born into. All right. Finally, on this side of the island, we have, well, power, the good old transformer. Holy shit, 4 megawatts for just the people. Wow. We have recyclables. So recyclables kick out on a belt, and the belt travels all the way across the map. We'll talk about that belt shortly, along with a belt for household appliances and another one for household goods. As we can see, we're avoiding using trucks where possible and using very, very long belts. We are obviously keeping both these fully stocked with household goods and household appliances. Yes, and then that brings us to our food markets, which are very, very full. Well, full of everything except vegetables. It turns out we have a vegetable shortage. Cake. I have 770. Maybe I don't have... Oh, it's right in front of me. Maybe I don't have enough cake. Maybe I need to add more cake. I don't know. It's one of those things that we keep monitoring from time to time. Occasionally everything's good, and then sometimes things are bad and we need to add an extra machine or remove a module or whatever it happens to be. So yes, we have the grand food storage, which has all the different items coming in, including over here we have a special sorting method for both fruit and for veggies. I know there's been a recipe added that I can turn excess vegetables into fuel gas and compost, I believe it is. I'm not entirely sure, but I know there's been a recipe added, but we are just sliding the items past a couple of connectors attached to some storages, and what they'll do is there's a 50% chance they'll grab the item here, and a 50% chance here, and a 50% chance here, and a 50% chance here, which means most of the food gets passed out and into these two machines to keep the people fed. But uni-wise, we're getting the full 5 uni bonus from having all the different food types. Next up, we have our biomass collector, which kicks out our biomass, which gets processed right here into compost, and the compost gets converted straight into fertilizer organic, which gets pumped into the farms. Next up, we have our grand statue of maintenance, which is saving us 5% maintenance. He is also a gold statue, for no other reason than being gold. And then finally, we have the great poop processor. The great poop processor, because we had a previous great poop processor that wasn't enough poop processing, so we had to upgrade it to the great poop processor. So this is the great poop processor. It processes up to 640 poop per minute. We're at 450. There's a chance we're going to have to increase that in the future. But yes, it processes a significant amount of poop. Lastly, we have a small desal plant over here on the far side of the housing, which provides us, well, enough water and enough brine and everything to run the poop processor, because technically there's a tiny bit of negative. We lose a certain amount of water into the colony every single month. Next up, we have, well, the tumor captains. Tumor captains, which we built, which now it's fully upgraded to level 6, requires a certain amount of fuel gas and a certain amount of flowers every month. It also gives another uni bonus of other decorations at 0.5. So we get a little bit of extra uni from this one as well. And right in front of that, we have the good old captain's office. Now, for all the food that we're producing and all the people we are still giving them plenty of food 1 and 2, mainly because I like uni and it's an extra 2.5 uni. As you can see, we're not poor on uni. In fact, we maxed out at 668 and I have 654. So I'm pretty good on uni, but I like building things with uni, so I don't have to wait on trucks, so hence I give them plenty of food. If we ever run into a food shortage and I turn this off, we're suddenly going to have 50% extra longer time-wise, so we're probably good on food for a while. As for our industrial edicts, we're running a few. We're running fuel saver 1 and 2, so trucks need to stop less often and refuel, which means more uptime, which means more dumping stuff in the sea. On top of that, we have overload trucks 1 and 2, which is, well, they carry 30% extra, which is, more uptime, more getting stuff done. We also have maintenance reducer 1 and 2, because saving 25% is a no-brainer. If we add the statue of maintenance in the background, that brings us up to 30%. Finally, we have recycling increase 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4 for a grand total of 5 uni. It's expensive, but it does take our recycling from like we get 35% back, I think originally, up to like 85% of back or something. It's ridiculous. On top of that, we have a couple of decorations around our lovely tomb of captains in our captain's office. We have the grand gold belt of upper management. It does mean if you wish to come visit me in my captain's office, you need to carefully traverse my belt of gold bars and not touch a single one of them, because the last person that touched one of them, and we can see we've had 2 bars go missing so far, they were last seen at sea. They haven't been seen since. All right, on to our farms. We have just a number of farms, just 1 or 2. Our farms are doing all right. We have the organic fertilizer I mentioned earlier. That's being fed into the farms on the right-hand side. And we have a small row of farms here. We're just producing any old food. There's no real rhyme or reason when it comes to our food. The only thing that we've been very, very careful on is this middle row tends to be veggies and fruit. The main reason is we have some very, very carefully stacked belts. This is probably the best spot to look at them. So we have some very, very carefully stacked belts and pipes down the middle. We have the bottom pipe. The bottom pipe is water in. The next pipe up, come on. Oh. In here, maybe the blue pipe. Up, I clicked on it. That one is the one that carries fertilizer. Next up from that, we have a flat belt that would carry any items that go on a flat belt. And the long list of those is, well, fruit, veggies, and flowers. Yep, flowers don't get grown anywhere except for one particular farm that direct feeds into the tomb of captains, because that's the only place that uses flowers, which is part of the supporters pack DLC. And then finally, of course, we have a U-shaped belt. The U-shaped belt moves a majority of our food, and all our food comes up here. It goes through a very quick sorter to pull out the potatoes and also the corn, and then everything else gets shunted out to left, which like I said, we've definitely filled one belt, where there are definitely times when we're getting close to filling the second belt. All right, so that is our grand farms. Now, our farms require a lot of water. We have 3 pipes down here that actually come off 3 nuclear reactors to give us some water. We also have a grand tank here, which comes from our desal plant over the rear, which, like I said, is providing water in here. Also provides a whole bunch of water into the farms, which means there are some very complicated balances going on right here, which we're not going to talk about because they're a giant pain in the ass, and I'd probably have to look up the old videos or my old notes to remember how they work. Yes. On top of that, and one thing I do want to mention is our belts down the middle. After about 12 farms, we've completely maxed out a 450 belt, so we have to have some wraparound belts that wrap around the side to bring in more food. All right. With that out of the way, we can talk about the coal mine. The coal mine, this is the secondary coal mine. There was a lot more coal. There's now less coal. Like I said, we're trying to go for 100% sustainability, but unfortunately, we are still burning a fair amount of coal. We are also getting coal from other means, but we are burning a certain amount as well. You may notice one of these lovely ramps. I have a few of these ramps laying around because I wanted this building space, so we dug out all the coal here and we dumped it in a ramp there, which I admit, we are digging it back up, but it provides a nice buffer. It provides enough buffer for oh shit situations. What is popping up and down? Okay, we don't care about you. We don't care about you. High supply of animal feed. That is actually perfectly fine. That is a nice area to have. What we'll do is we'll turn on another one of those. Food is a bit of a balancing game still. We're slowly upgrading farms from greenhouses to greenhouses 2. As I upgrade, I'm tweaking things 1 farm or 2 farms at a time. All right, next up we need to talk about copper. There was a tiny bit of copper hill in the way. As you can see, it was also removed, dumped in a bunch of boxes. Can I remove that and that and that? We also built a ramp. We built a ramp because building storage boxes gets very expensive very quickly. So a ramp it was. Also here we just happen to have data servers, mainly because there happens to be a groundwater right here that I can tap into. That's the only reason. All right, continuing down the base, we can then come to our nuclear reactors. We have a number of nuclear reactors. We have this reactor, which is still in the process of being built. It's only running at 1 speed, and it's providing a bunch of power. We next up have a smart reactor. My smart reactor, this provides either power or... Stop spinning. shouldn't be spinning. It's a sunny day. Stop spinning. It provides either power or water. So if we need the power, it runs the power half. If we don't need the power, we take all the steam from this reactor, pump it into all the desalinators, and make about 800 water per minute, which you can guess where that goes. Yes, so that is that particular reactor. Do we actually need the power? We actually need the power. On a sunny day. It's fine. It's fine. We'll leave that for right at the moment. Then we have our first reactor. Again, all the excess water from all these desalination plants go into the farms. One of the reasons I chose to run desalination plants rather than the large cooling towers is long story short, the water I lose running through the large cooling towers, I need to make up. There's been many suggestions. Groundwater pumps is a great one. The catch is groundwater is a finite resource and depends a lot on the rain. The other one was using high pressure steam to run into a couple of these to make the water that we'd be losing. The catch is for the amount of steam that I consume to make the water that I'm losing, it costs me more power. Costs me more potential power, that's probably the more accurate word, than just running 1,000 kilowatts worth of desalinators. Yes, it does cost 1,000 kilowatts, 1 megawatt worth of power to run this many desalinators, to be attached to this power plant. But this power plant makes 15 megawatts. I can lose 1 megawatt worth of power in getting enough water to feed back into this nuclear power plant, plus making about 72 extra, which of course goes to the farms. All right, next up we have nuclear processing. We have a fair amount of uranium ore. Remember that ship we mentioned at the other end of the map? Well, that belt of uranium ore finally works its way all the way down here and into this balancer, where it then feeds into our uranium processing. We have enough uranium processing here to run 4 reactors, so the plan is probably going to be 4 reactors. If I want to go past 4 reactors, I need to double the belt, so we might do that. We probably won't. On top of that, we actually have our uranium ship, which is importing uranium, but as you can see, you are absolutely topped up. So what I'm going to do is set you to 25%. Yes, we're going to go here, and I'm going to pause you to free up 100 workers and 28 maintenance. Love freeing up some extra people and extra material. Next up we have, let's go with this one. This was one of our original power plants running on coal. As you can see, it's sort of been superseded and retired. Next up we have, are you facing? Oh, you are facing the right way. Next up, we have gold processing. Gold ore we are digging up, and we are processing just a little bit of it because we are on the golden peak. Actually, let's try and zoom out a little bit further. We can see there's a tiny amount of gold in the middle of the map. I plan on mining every single bar of that, every single ounce of that, and turning into bars. A lot of bars. We have a few thousand bars in storage, 36,000 to be exact, and we are going to keep processing gold as fast as I can. On top of that, I can, because that's the stage of the game we're at, trade gold bars for more microchips. More microchips is a wonderful thing, because we can convert microchips into electronics 3 and into servers, which we can then upgrade and add more infrastructure to our base with more teraflops with more computing power. So that brings us down to this corner. All right, next up we have oil. Oil is a special thing. We have a couple of oil builds here all mixed together. Let's start at the coastline. Yeah, let's start at the coastline. I like the coastline. Coastline should be easy. We have standard off the world map Quartz. We're bringing Quartz. I don't have that on a contract yet. We just have Quartz. This one is a contract ship. This brings in sour water, which we can convert into, water. Plus, we can take the ammonia we get. We convert sour water into clean water plus sulfur plus ammonia. The sulfur I can do a number of things with, but at the worst comes to worst, I can turn back into slag with a bit of limestone, which means I can then ship it back out to sea. And if I ship it back out to sea, I get back more sour water. Sounds like a good deal to me. It's basically free water. On top of that, the ammonia, I have a couple of options. Ammonia, I can actually split into hydrogen and nitrogen. The hydrogen and nitrogen combination, nitrogen is pretty useless, but the hydrogen, I could burn in a whole bunch of boilers for free power. or free steam to create free power, free water, lots of different options. Or what we're actually doing is we're converting our ammonia into fertilizer 1, and then also taking the sulfur that we're getting as part of the sour water stripping method and turning it into fertilizer 2, which we're feeding a lot of farms. Right beside that, I have the exact same build again. It's another one doing the exact same contract, and of course the ship just left. So it's also doing a whole lot of slag for a whole lot of sour water, because like I said, I like the sour water. I think it's a pretty good trade. Next up, we have another one that's actually paused because we don't actually need it, which is a little bit funny to say. But this is one of our few shipyards we haven't upgraded because we haven't needed to. And this is, or was, trading vehicle parts for crude oil. Potentially, we're going to upgrade this in the future if we need enough crude oil. Currently, we've been doing pretty good. We're not actually using it because I've been investing a lot of time and effort into replacing anything I can with belts. Hence, the giant belts that we covered earlier are covering, going all the way up to the town center, rather than moving things across the map with trucks. Finally, oil. Oil, we have 2 builds combined together. First off, we'll start with my 4 modules. My 4 modules, which I've published a number of videos on, advanced diesel videos. Have a look at the top right-hand corner. Also, have a look down in the pinned comments below. There's probably going to be a number of videos if you want to find more information. Like, there's one dedicated to just the nuclear reactor in its entirety, how to build nuclear, all that sort of stuff. I've done a bunch of tutorial videos on captive industry in case this is your first video, but for oil, we have advanced oil. So that is our first module of our build. Then we have cracking. This particular build cracks our heavy into naphtha, because naphtha gives us more choices. One of the choices it gives us is shipping naphtha off, well, towards the main base that we do naphtha related things with, like plastic and rubber, that's the other one. Any excess naphtha we crack again into diesel and also fuel gas. We take all our fuel gas, we convert it to hydrogen. Then we have one of those sour water strippers I mentioned. This is actually a double build. This is enough to support 2 of these guys. This is what I refer to as my waste not want not build, because basically it's all self-contained. It's a wonderful self-contained build, and this is actually twice the size it normally is, because it's designed to handle that imported sour water, which again we are turning into fertilizer. One thing I should mention is, like I said, I'm trying to cut down on trucks, so the fertilizer is actually piped all the way across the map and fed into these farms. This is why these farms are doing awesome, and I'm just dropping them down to 90% because they're actually fed into those row farms beside that. But as we can see, all of these guys are actually full of fertilizer, because it's now delivered via pipe rather than me relying on good old truck transport. Truck transport, not always reliable. Actually, whilst we're in this corner of the map, we can mention that I do have nuclear fuel storage, spent fuel storage. We have filled up our first 5,000, which means we are champion. We're one fuel storage down, and we're working on our second one. As for the rest of the fertilizer, it comes into primary tank, and any excess flows over here and into the second row of farms. Hopefully, if I can cut these guys back to 90%, I should free up just a tiny bit of extra fertilizer, fertilizer 2. We should be able to run over here. We were importing organic fertilizer into these guys, not so much anymore. We're pretty much on fertilizer 2 because I like fertilizer 2 because it works well. All right, back to oil. Oil. So this is my waste not want not build. It also ends with a giant bucket of sulfur because I think we're not actually producing enough sulfur anymore. We are using CO2 scrubbers, exhaust scrubbers just about everywhere I possibly can, which do produce some amount of sulfur. But we seem to be using it for a lot of products, like gold and copper, and anywhere we need acid. So yes, we take the excess sulfur, we put into a bucket first, and then any we still might be a little bit negative. Any excess sulfur, we add some limestone to it, turn to slag. We take that slag, we run this on that belt, which then goes all the way back out to these 2 boats and gets shipped out to sea and bring back some more sour water. Okay, with that out of the way, this is our second oil module, which is different from the first one. This is the same 4 for advanced oil. Then over here we have heavy oil cracking directly to diesel. In the other one we were doing heavy oil to naphtha. This one primarily makes diesel. So this one makes diesel. This one converts any excess naphtha into diesel as well. Also takes any naphtha it can't process and pushes it into the first build because it has extra naphtha processing. Yes, this is where things get a little bit complicated. Then this takes that pipe. Hydrogen. This actually produces excess hydrogen, which it pushes over to this build, and this build actually produces extra, I want to say it's fuel gas. I don't know. There's nothing in the pipe. It is. It's extra fuel gas. So it brings this build, which makes extra fuel gas, brings the extra fuel gas over here to turn into hydrogen, which then takes the excess hydrogen processes back over there. Really, really linked and complicated. It makes life much fun. All right. We have, of course, sour water from the two ships that are importing sour water from Slag. That comes into a balancer, so we prioritize our own sour water first. Any excess sour water we will process shortly. And, of course, that build is linked into this build, which means it processes its own sour water first. Any excess it'll process, any excess sour water from the trade, it will also process into, well, this is a standard waste not want not build, where we have 2 sour water strippers with 2 chem plants, making fertilizer 1. And the fertilizer 1 comes over here, gets mixed with some limestone and some of the sulfur that comes from the sour water stripping, and makes fertilizer 2. Again, I do want to mention that the sour water we bring in a lot of it gets turned to free water. And water is one of those precious things, and slag is pretty useless. Sulfur, like I said, we're burning through a lot of sulfur at this stage on different recipes and different uses. We're not converting that much extra sulfur into slag anymore. And the ammonia, I have a couple of options. My current option is fertilizer, a lot of fertilizer. And of course, the fertilizer that's made here gets, piped over to join the rest of the fertilizer that then gets automatically piped off to the farms. All right, next one. We have a couple of gas boilers here. All these guys are burning hydrogen, hence why we're converting as much material, as much fuel gas to hydrogen as possible. One of the reasons we're doing that is hydrogen actually outputs depleted steam rather than any sort of exhaust. The depleted steam, we're running into a couple of desalination plants to get back more water that we're mixing with our sour water, our clean water from sour water. That's probably more accurate. And everything else to actually bring enough water into the system to then reboil into steam to then power the system. We do have a couple of coal boilers here for backup if we're not producing enough hydrogen, which it looks like we're not currently. But yes, this system is very, very dynamic. It's full of a fair number of balances. Yes, balances with different priorities on them to try and keep everything running. So far, it's been running for 600 years, 400 years, or whatever, and I haven't touched it. It just runs fine. All right. One thing we do mention is we're doing quartz processing here, purely because, the quartz ship is right there. The hydrogen is right here. And I already had to bring coal into quartz. We already have sour water stripping right here. We're still on the the current recipe for making graphite. So, we're just making the quartz processing here. Okay, next on my... You guys know you're not plugged into anything? You guys are just going to go forever, aren't you? Yep. Okay. All right. Over the top of the grand gold storage, we have iron digging. This one is a little bit special. What we did is we dug down into coal. At the same time, we found the edge of the iron patch, the second iron patch on the map. So we found out that none of the iron so far, there might be some there. Hang on, let's bring up this. Oh, yeah, there's definitely some there. Where is it up to dig it? Okay. We found none of the iron exists below level 41, so we're just digging out at level 41, expecting all the iron on top of that to fall into the mine, which is good because that way we can just dig it all up from this level. We're going to have a giant hole, but that's okay. We'll fill in the hole afterwards. All right. On the other side of the Great Golden Peak, we have just a couple of solar panels, which I am actually going to build the last couple of rows. Ooh. 120, and I have 63. That's probably okay. Yes, we have a grand solar farm. I have no idea how much power we're producing right now. I can't even copy the whole lot. That is 1,920 panels. That is another 8,280 panels. They cost 120 panels each, and on a steady day, they provide 32 kilowatts. I'm sure somebody down in the comment section will do the maths if you're interested, but it's a significant amount of power. And good news is it's mostly free. It does got a tiny bit of maintenance, But I just found out in the last episode that the solar cells that go into this recipe, you can't upgrade into better solar panels, so I'm not impressed. Yes, hopefully I paused the assemblers because I thought that was our last panel. All right, going back across the Gold Mountain, let's go through a couple more parts of the builds. All right, we have this. This is another desal plant to make clean water. We also have a ton of pipe and belt spaghetti in certain areas, certain high throughput areas. This particular one provides water into this system, providing it needs water is probably the best way of putting it. Because we produce water from the desal plants, because the sour water strippers produce water, because this is also technically tied into the output from these two exhaust scrubbers, also, well, the water output from these two exhaust scrubbers, because the exhaust scrubbers are producing steam. The steam we're running the desal plants to double the amount of water out, which then needs to go somewhere, potentially goes into oil. If it doesn't go into oil, potentially goes into all the water pipes that go past the nuclear reactors up to the farms. There's a couple of options when it comes to water. So this is the backup. I personally haven't seen this running in quite some time, so I don't even know if we need it anymore, but it's a backup, so we're going to leave it right there. Next up, we have our concrete slab production. Yes, our concrete slab production, where we actually have 4 of these guys now running, all on the hydrogen recipe. They are bad and they are producing exhaust. I really should tie these guys into some sort of exhaust scrubbing system, but it's 30, 60 exhaust. It's a lot of effort. I don't really have an exhaust scrubber locally. My closest one is these ones back over here, so, you know, I don't know whether I can be bothered. This particular system brings in rock. We crush the rock into gravel. We take the gravel and we produce our own sand on site to make a crap ton of concrete slabs. These are all concrete mixes number 3, which means this does 90. These two do 96. These two do 96. It's like 200 concrete slabs. It's a fair number of concrete slabs. That feeds into, well, this mess of belts, which both go into the main production center. They also come out of the main production center. We have just a tiny bit of iron storage. This is from a grand iron mine. We have the 1 digger and 1 dump truck that could, which is mining all the gold they possibly can and putting it into the boxes to then go over to the gold smelter to slowly convert the whole island into bars of gold, because I wish to be the richest captain there is. We have, right outside the main dock, we have a couple... Bad truck. We have our main vehicle depot. Our vehicle depot has a couple of buildings. Yeah, I don't have any iron. A couple of buildings here. We are bringing all the requirements into boxes to make... that probably wouldn't help. Yeah, let's remove that belt. To make vehicle parts 1, we're taking those requirements and turning them into vehicle parts 2. We're taking those and we're storing them up, just so we have a buffer to then make vehicle parts 3 all on site with all the items basically delivered in boxes and fed into these couple of machines. We have diesel around the back fed off the main diesel line, along with a fuel station, because why not? Just so we can make vehicle parts from a small localized build. Okay, next up we have rubber along with iron smelting, all the iron ore in the world. Rubber actually needs to be upgraded. That's going to be on the list for tomorrow's episode. Yes, we need to have a little bit more iron. We do need a bit more iron, but we also need a bit more rubber. Actually, we should stop at the shipyard. Shipyard is mostly empty, not entirely empty. We also have a battle score of 560, but we just finished ship engine 3 and ship weapons 3, which means we're going to be upgrading the engines, upgrading the guns, and we're about to spend 1,000 steel, 500 mechanical parts, 160 electronics 2, with 280 electronics 1, and bringing our combat score up to 900, which seems pretty good if we're going to bring in the year just past the year 1000. Just past the year 1000 means we can take on every pirate out there and hopefully kill them. There are some out there with a combat score of 990, but I think we can take them. All right, after we have rubber, we have iron smelting. Now, iron smelting, well, we have exhaust scrubbing. Exhaust scrubbing is not quite all the exhaust from iron smelting. It needs an upgrade, but there ain't any room. So that's the thing. I don't know what to do about that. The only thing I can do about that is remove truck access to drive around this way, which is a possibility. But as we can see from the paths, which I really, really do like the paths, we can see that there is a fair bit of truck transport along here. where there is not quite as much along here. So maybe not a good idea. We'll see. We'll see. But this is our exhaust scrubbing for our iron. Iron smelting needs to be upgraded. So we have 2 blast furnace Mark IIs, which are running into 4 caster 4s, producing a total of 96 iron per minute. The catch is I'm actually using 96 iron per minute, so the box is empty, which means, like I said, next episode it needs an upgrade. I need to basically double up the amount of iron plate, iron bars that I'm producing, because I'm not producing quite enough. Next up, we have steel smelting. I have 2, 4, 6, 8. I have 8 steel smelters, and it's keeping up finally, as 6 was not. We are producing a lot of steel, which we're running through one central box, so it's all nice and balanced together, which we're then taking off and, doing all the steel things with. This build I'm very, very proud of, because, it brings in coal. Coal, funnily enough, comes in from this belt, which travels all the way through. We'll get to the other end of the coal in a minute. Iron comes in, iron ore comes in here, limestone comes in here. As for the slag comes out on a special belt, which heads to the coastline, and oh no, it's okay, and heads out to this belt, which then travels all the way over here and then goes off to the ships. Yeah, we've been cutting down on truck transport by just finding any belts or any routes that trucks are taking constantly and regularly, like slag, and making sure we can do something with it. In our case, we're shipping out to the boats, and then the boats are literally shipping it overseas and bringing back sour water, which stays in a pipe, which again is less transport. So this is our steel and iron build, because all the smelters use the same thing. These were very, very nicely tied together, but like I said, we don't quite process enough of the exhaust, which I'm not particularly happy about. Next on our list is, let's skip the main section for a moment. Let's go to the other side. So on the other side of our main production area, we have let's go left to right. Okay, we have copper. So I now have 3 copper smelters. Last episode, I believe we had 2. Yeah, no, a couple of episodes ago. 2. When I say 2, I mean two sets. Two of the sets, yes. 4 smelters total with 4 casters with 4 electrolyzers. But, you get my point. You get my point. We went from these 4 to I added 2 more on the end. And honestly, I would really like to add 2 more on the end. But we are still filling in a small hole in the ground that was caused by our previous copper mine. Our previous copper mine was right here, but as we can see, there's no little bars saying this copper exists in there because we've dug it all up. So we have added another copper smelter. I think I want another one again. Right beside copper, we actually have glass. Main reason we have these 2 together is copper, as part of the recipe, requires sand, and well, we need sand to make glass, so it seemed like glass mix, so it seemed like a no-brainer to put these 2 together. Once again, we are taking our excess exhaust from, all the smelters and running through exhaust scrubbers. This side does actually have enough exhaust scrubbers to process it all. Unfortunately, it doesn't run on desal plants, so there is a little bit of a water loss, which is unfortunate, because we use the water loss to make acid to run this whole build. So, there's a pipe buried in here somewhere that actually travels back over to this side, where buried in here is a groundwater pump. Yeah, you didn't see that, did you? Okay, so back over here. We are processing a bunch of glass over here. We also have, right in front, we have plastic, which is fed off the naphtha pipe. Remember that naphtha pipe I mentioned earlier? Well, it comes all the way over here. It's completely belt fed. Finally, we have sand. We are obviously producing our own sand on site. Can I get an alert? You have a 25%. Great. We are producing, we are normally producing our own sand on site, but currently one of the projects we're doing is digging out, this tiny little sand pit, my last sand pit of the map. One of our goals is sand actually continues under the surface out to, I don't know how deep, so we're just filling in some of the sea to find out how deep the sand is, to then dig the rock that we've just dumped into the sea out to get the sand out, because I don't want to have any of these bars left over. It's just not acceptable. It's not acceptable in my books. Not enough maintenance 3. That sounds like an issue. I have 8 of them. That's probably why. Can I get a priority 7? All right. So yes, we're producing our own sand on site, unless we happen to be digging up a giant sand pit. Next up, we have our main production center. Our main production center, which is fairly compact. Has a few things that we need to talk about. Turn that on did not help at all. All right, let's start down here. So down here we are making household appliances, which goes on a very long belt right across the map back to the colony. Right beside that, we're making household goods, which goes on a very long belt right across the colony. We also have over on this side, we're making vehicle parts 2. Vehicle parts 2, yes, which goes into one of our few remaining shipyards we haven't spoken about. We have obviously wood import, pretty boring. Right beside that we have one of our trade ships. This is not loading fast enough. Oh wow, we don't have enough vehicle parts. Oh, we don't have enough iron. Yeah, that's the issue. It's fine. All right. This one is trading vehicle parts 2 for crude oil. So as we can see, for 154 vehicle parts 2, I get 1,540 crude oil. As we can see, this tank, which is the primary crude oil tank, is full. It's a pretty good trade. We're not actually using that much crude oil in the time the ship takes to load, unload, disappear, come back, all that sort of stuff. Next up right here, we have one of my many coal imports. We are actually trading glass for coal. And obviously I don't produce enough glass to get enough coal, but you know, we're working on it. And remember that coal belt that we had showing up at iron? Yeah, that coal belt comes from this ship, which goes onto this belt, which goes through the main production out the other side. Yeah, it's a mess. And right beside that, I actually have the same contract again. We're doing another glass for coal because I want to not have to mine coal on the world map or on the island, and we want to just deal with, you know, the coal that we can get via contracts. Finally, we have recycling. I actually have 2 recycling plants going flat out. As you can see, we're absolutely maxed out on broken glass, because 4 smelters doing broken glass and nothing but broken glass is not enough to actually get through our backlog currently. But yes, I have 2 recycling plants going flat out most of the time. This one's have a bit of a backlog because we can't get rid of the broken glass fast enough. All right, back to our main production. So that's our vehicle parts, which requires vehicle parts 1, which are right here. Right here we have construction parts 1, which has an iron shortage, which I'm just going to alleviate by doing that. Yeah, I have enough Unity, I can boost 6 things and just ignore it. Our vehicle parts 1 go into a giant box. They also go through a connector, which has a 50-50 split, obviously, into, well, construction parts 2. On top of that, there is, I can't really see, there's this pretty little loop back belt, which goes from storage back into, well, this section to then go into construction parts 2. Should I decide I want to boost construction part 2, I don't have to automatically boost construction part 1. To make sure I have enough, I can actually take out and leach out of storage to make parts 2 faster. If I want to Unity boost one of them rather than having to Unity boost all of them in a row, I can just bleed off storage a little bit. Right beside that, like I said, we have construction part 2, which right beside that I have construction part 3, which, like I said, should I want to Unity boost these guys, because we have that loop back belt active, rather than me having 3 of these, which means I need 6 making construction part 2, I can have 4 and have the extra 2's worth of supply come off this side. All right, out of storage. Finally, we have construction parts 4, and then on this side we have well, science lab equipment 1, lab equipment 2, lab equipment 2, lab equipment 3, lab equipment 3, lab equipment 4, lab equipment 4. Some very large labs, large labs that I'm pretty sure I probably have enough components that I could just turn on, but we'll look at that in the next episode, preferably when that fixes itself. And there's some maintenance, not a lot. Some. Can I... It's just I don't have any available. That's my issue, because they're all getting turned into... you. Oh. That belt be missing. When did that belt go missing? Yeah. It's fine. All right. Where were we? Over here. Over here we have copper and rubber being mixed together to make electronics 1. Right beside that we have steel being brought in to be turned into mechanical parts. Right beside that we have electronics 2, which is fed from PCBs above. Finally we have solar cells, which I have 50 in stock, which means I'm about to delete these guys in favor of not making any more of them ever. We have electronics and mechanical parts coming out here, feeding into maintenance alley, which also pumps out got a whole bunch of recyclables out the rear, which then go into the great tubs to go into the recycling centers. And with that said, I'm pretty sure that is our whole base tour. We are on the Golden Peak map. We've done a fairly good job so far of flattening out the island bit by bit by bit. We still have a bit more to go. We have some very, very weird coastlines because we have definitely found and rubbed hard up against the edge of the map. This is where we stand after 1,000 years. After 1,000 years, most of the island is flat. Goods, actually, in fact, I think the island's twice the size I started with, at least around this coastline it is. And yeah, a good portion of the island is flat. We still have some giant holes we need to dig out and then fill back in. We are mostly on the way to being self-sufficient. In fact, actually, if we look at uni very quickly, I have 5 contracts, I have 10 edicts, I have 2 quartz mines, so I have a level 3 quartz mine basically running. I have a sawmill running, I have 2 labs, and I have 6 boosts. World map wise, we are mining nothing. I don't have any oil rigs running. I don't have the uranium mine. We just turned that one off earlier in the video. We are running this quartz mine at level 1, this quartz mine at level 2. That's it. That's it. We are very, very self-sufficient so far, and we are, like I said, I want to shoot for 100% self-sufficient. The only ones I want to use are infinite ones, so like sawmill, 100% infinite, can run forever. The quartz, the uranium, or a lot of the other ones are finite. Sulfur's unlimited. That's coal. There's a rock mine somewhere. Rock mine, which I haven't even upgraded, is also unlimited. Also, the ground wells. The ground wells are also unlimited water. So there's a couple of mines that are on normal difficulty, captain difficulty, whatever it happens to be. There's a couple of mines on the world map that are sailor, captain, I can't remember. There's a couple of difficulties. There's a couple that are unlimited. The rest are finite. And like I said, we're shooting for 100% sustainability, even if it kills us. So far, we've avoided that part. But with all that said, I'm going to be leaving this episode here. By all means, if you're curious how we got here, there is a playlist down in the description below. Do me a favor, click playlist, check out the whole 50-odd episodes for how we got here. At the same time, being this is a very, very long video and I haven't stopped speaking once at all, can you do me a favor? Can you click the like button? With all that said, that's where we're going to end it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Do hope you've enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the very next video. All right, bye.